Today on Homebrew Terrain, we're going to learn how to make this pillar. It's a simple project. It takes 10, 15, 20 minutes to do. And it's part of a series of terrain that I'd like to start doing here where we make just simple things really quickly. It's easy to just plop onto the battlefield and play and add enhancements to your game. So let's get started. Hey, my name is Aaron and welcome to Homebrew Terrain. So here's the items that you're going to need. You're going to need basically just some toilet paper rolls, some flat cardboard to make like base structures. We're going to use the popsicle sticks and of course granted toothpicks, and things are going to be great. We're going to show you how to do some really cool stuff today, and we're going to start by making a few basic pillars. This one's kind of a little bit more elaborate than what we really want to do here because there's a lot of steps involved in this one, and it's just, you can do it a lot easier in other ways. So we're going to go differently. We're going to take it easy first. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take and make an empty space here to work on. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to start by making this easy. So we take a piece of little cardboard here, and we're going to use this for the pieces that go underneath here as the connecting pieces. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. We're going to take this pillar, and you could literally just glue something here and glue the top on, and that's that, which we've done in previous videos if you check the other anyway. So what we're going to do though is we're going to take this bad boy and we're going to do something a little more elaborate with it. We're going to cut it into thirds, and they don't have to be like perfect thirds either, because these are going to be kind of like ruins and stuff. So we're just gonna whack this bad boy into thirds like this. And again, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. So now that we have this bad boy into thirds, look how perfect that is. That was almost an absolutely perfect cut of yeah, anyway, so I'm going to take the smallest of the two, and I'm going to do something kind of cool here. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to slice it up the middle, and I'm going to hot glue it so that it's smaller than the other two. And this will be our middle piece. So then I'm going to take my hot glue gun here, which I love so very much. I have a love-hate relationship with this thing. And we're going to go over here and hot glue this guy like this. Now we're going to have, this is the bottom piece right here. This is going to sit kind of smaller in the middle, and then there's going to be a one on the top. And it'll be kind of a cool little juxtaposition to one another. And you know, honestly, as much as I'm looking at this here, I probably should have measured it first, because I should have. So I'm going to redo that with the camera, because why not? I'm awesome like that. Let's just see if we peel this thing apart. No, whatever. Just cut that section off. No one will ever know. There we go. That's what I intended all along. Like that. Stop judging me! Stop judging me! Okay. There we go. And now we take our hot glue gun here, and like I said, love-hate, this thing burns me, but you know, whatever. Okay, but you need her anyway. Alright, it burns! Not really, this one's actually pretty good. I'm getting better at not burning myself as much, mostly. Okay. That's much better. Okay, so now we got this like this. So now what we're gonna do, is we're gonna take our trusty rusty pen, and we're gonna go up to here, like these, and draw a circle around the cardboard, just like this. I really should get like a tattoo right here that says something cool, so every time I put my hand in front of the camera, you guys can go, ooh, look, he's got something cool on the back of his hand. And then we're just going to use the scissors to cut out the circle that we just drew. Now remember, we drew this circle on the outside of the cardboard there, or the paper. I keep calling it a paper towel roll, but it's not a paper towel roll. The reason for that is because I actually have a paper towel roll that I'm going to be using here in a minute for something else. Anyway, so the toilet paper roll, we cut it on the outside of the toilet paper roll, which means that it's going to be the exact same size as the toilet paper roll, but really what we want is for it to go down inside there. So you're going to have to kind of go through here and just get get your tools. You're going to have to go through there, and you're going to have to just trim off just a sniff on the outsides, just so that it'll go in to the toilet paper roll perfectly, and the hot glue will fill up anything else that you have causing problems and getting in the way. So there we go. And then you just kind of stick it down inside there like that, so you can see that you've got the bottom there. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing on this one, right? And then we're going to put this on top of here, right? And then we're going to put this on top of here, like this. And it'll just be kind of a cool little thing. And then we'll decorate it with neat stuff, and that's that. And it's really simple, and that's what the whole thing is just simple terrain things that you can do to enhance your table and make things better. Just because it's a simple terrain piece doesn't mean that it doesn't add some flourish to your table. Now, if you're smart, you remember that you have to cut a sniff off, so you'll cut it on the inside of the line that you made. Just like that. And then we should be able to stick it down in here. Oh, it actually fits a little too well. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to hot glue these bad boys in place, because if you don't, then they pop out like I did. And it doesn't matter if you have a little bit of fuzzies on the inside of this with like the hot glue and stuff, because you're going to be gluing this to the top of something else. There we have it. And once that bad boy cools, it will be pretty solid. And it doesn't make any difference if like there's little gaps and stuff. You can see like right here, there's like a little gap, and then there's more little gaps and stuff, but it doesn't matter, because all we really need this for is a base for with which to shove this onto the next piece. And we're going to do the same thing on the next one, only it's going to be bigger. Bigger! Hot glue. See, that's the hot glue that I'm talking about. Now what we're going to do is we're going to glue this guy onto this guy. Just like that. Yeah, that's all we're going to do. It's really exciting. Okay. And we're waiting for this to cool enough that we can make that a reality. We're going to do that again to this one. Now, when we're done with this, you can actually just finish up by putting these guys together, and that's that. It's done. You can decorate it however you want, and you can have your little pillar in the middle of the battlefield, or whatever it is you're using it for. So you could do that. You totally could. But I'm going to take it a little step further, because I usually do. I'm never satisfied with just, you know, making it easy on. Now Another technique you can use if you want to try to do it this way is you can actually run the hot glue gun down in there if you have one that's cool enough to do that. I kind of don't. So I have to pop it out and do it the hard way. Because that's just the kind of cool guy that I am. Run my finger along here. Now it's actually cool enough that I can actually do that. One of the things about here is just kind of learn the timing in your head as to how long it takes this stuff to cool off enough that you can touch it easily, and not but before it gets too solid. And once you have that kind of count in your head, you can go like 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, you're doing this silently in your head, and because if you start doing that out loud, then people think you're a freak. I mean, more than usual. So yeah, it's that's what I do. No! I'm running out of hot glue! I'm out of hot glue! No! Okay, whew. I just fucked. Perfectly this time. Of course not. Why would it fit perfectly this time? Okay, so I have a little tool that I like to use when things are getting frustrating. This little guy right here, because it'll stab into the cardboard and pull it up where I want it to be, because that little dip right there is going to be problematic. So I pull it up like this. Yeah, baby. You do what I want. You do it. So that little bend there later on, though, will be pretty cool. Like when I say little bend, that little spot right there where it was bending down and it wasn't going in right, there was like a little gap right there. So what would happen is this lip would fold under and it would cause the whole pillar, instead of being straight like this, it would bend it at a tilt. And it's kind of a cool little technique you can do though later on, where you can put this piece in here at like a 45-degree angle, and then you can like bend it up and then kind of jack up this end here like it's a broken pillar, and then like it's kind of broken on top of like a pillar broken, like, you know, like that. But whatever. And then you'd have like stuff in there to show like broken pillarliness. Alright, so this was going to be the top of the piece, this is going to be the bottom of the piece. How do you know? Because this is hollow. Hollow! Alright, and then what you do is you take this piece here, and then you just fill it up with hot glue. And stick it like that. Thusly. Look at that. How cute is that? Oh my goodness, that's so adorable. I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. And this is the one that has all the little holes that I just punched in it from needing to move it around. So we're going to fill that bad monster up with hot glue right in the middle there. And then we're going to put that on top of this. And it creates kind of a little barbell effect. Okay, anyway, it creates a cool little pillared effect, you know. It's kind of neato. It's got some, it's cool. Shut up, man. Okay, so one of the things we're going to do here, though, is we're going to create a little base for it. Now, here's the part where we do something really, really neat. Toilet paper rolls are very awesome for a lot of reasons, because they don't have to just be round. I can actually flatten this bad monster out like this. And once it's flattened out, now I can use it to make all kinds of stuff. So the first thing we're going to do is glue this tight with some regular old Elmer's glue. Okay. And I call this Elmer's, but actually it's PVA glue. And again, like I said many times in this channel, don't ever go to a store asking for PVA glue. It's going to be embarrassing all the way around, because the people at the store won't know what it is. Most of them are not, they're not terrain building technical people. They don't like to work with this stuff. So it's easier if you just go, yeah, this is Elmer's glue that I'm looking for. I'm just looking for Elmer's. You guys got any Elmer's glue? And make sure that it's the extra strong stuff. Make sure you don't get the washable glue. Washable glue is terrible. when you're trying to use it. I mean, for little kids, when it's, you know, smearing it on shirts and sticking it up noses, yeah, washable glue is fantastic. But when you're using washable glue for terrain building, not so much, because it doesn't hold very well. It takes forever to dry, and when it finally does, even then, you're lucky if you get a solid hold on anything. Sorry, I'm cleaning out the cap. I haven't actually used this particular bottle of Elmer's glue in, I don't know, a couple months now, because reasons that corresponded with the fact that I haven't actually uploaded anything to my channel in like months now, for the same reasons. I mean, this looks pretty good, right? It looks good to you guys? You look good to me? Okay, yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, alright, that'll work. Cap back on. Flip the glue over and shake it a bunch of times because it just makes you feel better about life. And then we have to squeeze for the glue. Come on, glue, hello, glue, where are you? Okay, yeah, it's starting to come out. So then I put a tremendous amount of pressure on the back end so that it explodes all over everything when it finally, oh no, that's not what we want to do. Okay, so let's get that out of the light. So yeah, I just put a little bit of PVA glue right there, and then smear it down your finger or whatever, and then just stick it on there. Boom. Alright, so now we've got a flat piece of cardstockish kind of stuff. It's a little thicker than a regular cardstock, which is why I like it, but it's not too thick that you can't just monkey around with it. Okay, so the same thing with this one here. We're going to need another one of these guys. So we're going to go ahead and just slice this bad boy open. And honestly, it doesn't really matter where you do it. But yeah, we're going to make this flat. Okay, that little piece is sticking up more than it should. So we're going to invite it to stay down. Stay down, soldier. Stay down. Okay. Mix this all in here. Also, when you're gluing this stuff, remember that cardboard is very thirsty. It is a very thirsty substance. It wants to absorb lots of whatever you put on it. So, yeah, PVA glue is your friend. And if you need more, you put more on there. Don't be afraid to overdo it. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little base for this guy. It'll be a square base, but I want it to be like this. So I'm going to take this guy here and I'm going to measure from that end to this end here so I know where I want it to be. Alright, but I want this to be kind of at a cool little angle, so I'm going to take my little ruler here, my ruler, and yeah, I'm going to 45 this bad boy like this right here. See how I'm doing it? How awesome is that? And then I want to go here. I'm in the same angle. I'm sure that's exactly the same angle. I'm sure that's perfect. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah, at all, for any reason whatsoever. I'm going to draw this across here like that. Okay, and so what we're doing here is we're cutting a basic template. Now, I'm going to show you guys something really cool trick. I'm going to cut it like this. But wait, the line's right there. Why did you cut it so far out here? Well, the reason I did that is because I'm going to cut this down like that, and I'm going to cut this across like that, and I'm going to make a tab. Ooh, tabs! Tabs are cute! Unless you're talking about a bar tab, and then that's not so cool. Okay, so like this. Again, I'm going to cut it at an angle like this, and then I'm going to cut it straight up like that, and then I'm going to angle down like that. So, yeah. So it would look something like this. Now what you do is you use your fingers, because you're awesome, to fold this like that. See how I did that? How cool is that? What we're going to do is we're going to glue this. We're going to cut out another one of these, looks just like it, and then we're going to glue this to that. Neato! Okay. now that we've created this sort of weird lopsided whatever shape, because we don't really care at this point, you know, it's kind of, again, terrain for a war thing is going to be really not so perfect. It's going to be a pillar that's been sitting around for a while, you know, probably wasn't very well built to begin with, because let's face it, back in the ancient medieval days, they didn't really have the technology for doing awesome stuff that we do now. Pretty sure they didn't have codes and that kind of stuff they had to worry about. Safety inspectors that would come by. This is where somebody comments from down, well, actually, in the Roman Empire. You're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Who invited that guy? Get out of here, fly. Alright. Like, who invited that guy? Okay, so I've got 2 of them here now with tabs. See how I got the tabs on there? Okay. Now that I have the two places with the tabs, I'm going to make another one without the tabs. And because you don't need them, because you got the tabs, I'm just going to glue them all together, and it'll work. Trust me, I've done this before. A couple times. Maybe once. There was one time I did it. I was drunk, but it's okay. I'm sure I'll remember perfectly. So we're going to cut this out like this. See, that's not a very good cut. That was me getting ahead of myself. I was getting carried away there. Okay. All right. And again, we'll on those lines right here where we just drew, we'll make a tab. This one's a little bit harder because it's got that other piece right there, but who cares? We'll just fold through it. Fold on through to the other side. Okay, no, whatever. Okay, so now we have 2 with tabs. So, and this should be, you know, pretty close. So, yeah, they're close enough. Yay. And they're going to be on either side of each other, like this, and then there's going to be 2 in the middle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this other one that we did that stuff with, set all that stuff aside. I'm going to come over here, and then we can flatten it out a little bit better. That, okay, cool. And now we're going to fold the tabs up on this one here, because we're not going to be using them. And we're going to come over to here, and we're going to make ourselves one of these here. Do hickety-dicketies. Like this. You see my hand? See, like I said, I should have something really cool written there. Okay, let's try it again. That's hot. Alright. Yeah, that's better. Alright, so yeah, that totally didn't work at all. Hold on a minute. Okay, so now we're going to draw. It's being a pain. This right here, right here. The tab is getting in the way, but it'll be something like that. Okay, so then we're going to do. Now, the cool part is we're going to glue that together like that. Ooh, yeah, baby. Now you could use the Elmer's glue to do this. It would probably be just as good, and in fact even better in some ways. But I'm going to use hot glue because I'm a glutton for punishment, and that's because it's just faster. And right now, faster is kind of what I'm going for. So we're going to glue the tab on there. So you glue it on. I'm going to press it down real quick here, and let the glue do what it do. And then we're going to go to here, and we're going to do the same thing here. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this guy here, and we're going to take the hot glue like this, and we're going to go just gently put some hot glue on there. Not a whole lot. Don't need a huge bead on this one, especially since it's the wrong side. There we go. There we go. Like this. And then finally, Allie, we're going to come over here and do the same thing one last time. Actually, I don't need the tab. I don't need the tab. And we're going to go like, you're being a pain. Stop it. Okay, pull that there. Go like this. Now, as you can see here really quickly, we're going to end up creating, well, let me cut this out first. Okay. Okay, here we go. We're going to end up creating a shape that looks like this if you lay it out flat. And you ask yourself, why wouldn't you just cut out that shape? Well, because as you can see, it's actually bigger than the toilet paper rolls or the paper towel rolls or whatever rolls you want to use. It's going to be bigger than both of those together. So the best thing to do, if you wanted to do it this way and make it easier for yourself, you could just cut out two of these, lay them flat and glue them together, and then you can cut out this shape. But I just did it using the 4 because it was just easier that way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue the last piece in here like that. Okay. Now, one of the things that's going to be kind of important here is that the top needs to be relatively even. And as you can see, there's a couple of spots along the top here that stick out a little higher than they should. So I'm just going to come through here with my scissors and just kind of trim them off a little bit. It's just going to be a little bit. In fact, I could probably do this with the X-Acto knife, which would be better, but lazy. Okay, now this is kind of flimsy because it's you know, it's just paper. So what you're going to do here to reinforce this bad boy, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a top on here, but we're not going to put a regular, we're not going to paper top it because that's not what we're going to do. We're going to cardboard top it because cardboard topping it is better. But the cool part about this is we can actually we can trace the inside of this, which is cool. Because if we had to trace the outside of it, then it gets a little harder to work with. So we're going to go ahead and do it like this. Why? Because we can. I'm just going to go ahead and go da-da-da. There we go. That's going to be roughly the shape right there. So I'm going to go ahead and clean it up a little bit. My ruly, like that, and like that. There we go. Cut that down to there. Cut that over to there. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to glue this to the inside like this, and that gives it a little bit more structure on top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another one of these on the bottom, and that'll make it even better. So here you see it, where I've got it all stuck on the top there, and it's all glued in on the bottom. Yay, it's glued in on the bottom. And so now I've got this lovely piece right here. And then the next step that I'm going to do here is I'm going to get another piece of cardboard. So this is just one of those, you know, free boxes that you can get. And you're just going to go ahead and cut this out. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to cut this into a square. For this thing here, I'm going to cut it like a round piece like this. It doesn't have to be perfect, unless you really want it to be. I'm going to do this. I'm going to stick this on here like this. And that's going to become the base for this particular terrain. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to stick it on here, and I'm just going to hot glue it right to the base. And neatness is definitely not what we're going for here, because we're going to be flocking and talking and messing with the base here in a minute, doing cool stuff to it. So here it is, all hot glued in place, and this is what it looks like. Isn't that just nifty? Oh, okay. So then we're going to take our lovely piece like this and do the same thing. We're going to stick it on there like that. Yay! How cool is that? And we're going to go like this, because that's just a lot easier than what I was going to do. Stick that on there like that. Try to line it up as best you can. I don't know, I kind of made the square a little too small, which is kind of dumb, but oh well. That's just the way life works. I'm going to try to squeeze it together. Yay! There we go. That won't look terrible at all. So this is just like a basic pillar that's just sitting there, right? Right. Now if you want to get crazy on the Cheez Whiz, which of course you do, I'm going to glue this down even better here. It's not. Now if you want to get really crazy and have a lot of fun with it, you can make another one of these and then just stick it on the top here, so that it would look, you know, with that up here, and you could just keep going forever like Lincoln Logs. Or if you want to get even more fun, you can take like a model that you don't really want or whatever, you know, and you can put that on the top and make that like the statue that was supposed to be there the whole time. I'm using this guy though. This is my dude. Anyway, my little duder. So yeah, or you know, if you bigger models, like if you've got money to burn, you can put these guys on there and make like 40K things, you know, whatever. And honestly, this is just the structure of the pillar. It's not like it's not what it's going to look like when you're done. So that's the important part about this here. And you can actually make this like the structure to something larger. Like if you wanted to put this, like say, if you wanted to put something like this, you know, like remember how we made this earlier? You could actually, you know, build these guys onto it and have it be like this crazy bridge over with this crazy pillar stuff. I've made plenty of stuff in the past where, you know, it wasn't just a simple build like this. It was much more elaborate looking, you know, whatever, high elves, that kind of stuff. So that being said, we're pretty much done here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to base it up, and then we're going to paint it up so that it looks very, you know, pillar-y, I guess. Is that a good word? Pillar-y? All right. All right. So the next step is going to be where we take the Elmer's glue, PVA glue, and we go ahead and we just put a glob on there. Just like so. Blam. Make it nice and big and thick and gooey, because that's how people like it. And then just kind of paint it on there with your paintbrush, like this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the old sanding thing. So I'm going to take a little bit of sand, I'm going to pour it into my hand here. And this is just like the modeling stuff that you can get. I got this at the dollar store because cheap. And so you just, you know, pour this on here. And then what you want to do is you want to kind of back on the bottom of this thing here and kind of scrape some of the stuff off that kind of gets on the bottom. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to go outside and I'm going to hit it with a rattle can of this stuff, the Wraithbone. And that'll give me a lovely primer on this so that way the cardboard will soak up all the primer and I'll be able to paint it really well. And here we have it. You can see that I have now basically given it a lovely spray painting. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to paint it up. And we're going to start by giving it base coatings of black as a wash. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with a wash. But it's going to be a lovely black wash. So I'm going to take the black paint, I'm going to pour it in here and just slurp it in, just like that, so it's all schloopity gloopity. And then, but I want this to be really, really, really thin. I don't want it to be any kind of a decent stain to it at all. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my water. I'm going to take my water and pour it in there like that. And just kind of sloosh it around so that we get this lovely wash. Like a beast. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to paint something that isn't what I'm trying to paint to see what it looks like. And it looks pretty good. See what I did there? It looks alright. So we're going to take this very, very loose paint here and I'm going to start painting the rocks. Because I want this to go down inside the rocks, but I don't want it to taint the rocks or the sand too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it down in here like that. See how that looks? Isn't that amazing? So now what I'm going to do is basically paint this whole model using this wash that I created. So I'm going to have this black base is what I'm going to do here. Alright, and make sure you get it all over everything because you really want it all over everything. Like your model and your table and, you know, the floor. Preferably on your shoes. Make sure that, you know, your girlfriend or your mom or your whoever's in your house that has something really nice. Yeah, definitely get it all over that. Whatever it is, it's nice. And you just want to get, you know, drip it all over. It's basically like an ink almost at this point, without the inky bits. And you don't want it to puddle up too much in any one place. So you do want to watch out for that. And at this point, you don't have to worry about it getting on anything and everything, because that's just what you're going to do. This is just the total base for everything. And it's fine. You're not worried about it. You get it all over the whole thing. Be generous with this stuff. And now for the hardest part of any model build, we have to wait for this to dry. Because you don't want to go any further until this is dry. Because we're going to do a lot of dry brushing on this and highlighting and adding goodness. So you wait for that and come back. That's a very important side. You want to make sure that the wash that you create with the black doesn't actually have a hole in the bottom, and so it doesn't actually leak all over everything while you're doing this. Unless of course you like huge messes, which is, you know, kind of what I do. So anyway, from here, this is what it's going to look like. Now it's mostly dry at this point. I hit it with the hairdryer, and so we're good. Now one of the things that I noticed while I was hitting it with the hairdryer is that because it was mostly water, it started to peel away all the cardboard on the bottom, which is no big deal really. I just filled it all up with PVA glue and hit it again with a hairdryer, and now it's nice and solid. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to do a bunch of dry brushing and a little bit of light washes, but for the most part, you can just leave it like this if you wanted to do like a gray sort of thing for like an undead or, you know, whatever. It's got that kind of graveyard yucky to it, kind of grayness. But we're not going to do that because reasons. So I'm going to be using a combination of these grays and taupes to kind of give the pillar itself the highlights, and also the sort of light browns and stuff to deal with the rocks or the sand on it and on the bottom. But one of the things that's really important to note here is that this stuff is really good, not just for making the actual pieces, but you can actually make like cut up designs and stuff for it too. For instance, let's just say I want to do like the high elves or whatever. The elves themselves, kind of like that moon shape, which of course you see regularly also in like the Slaanesh also has that, and some of the other ones. So just, you know, making simple moons and then gluing them on the base, or making other more intricate designs also can add some cool flair. So you have this guy here, and now what I'm going to do is just kind of fold it up in half like this, because I'm awesome. And then just kind of go like this. You cut these little half moon shapes. They don't have to be perfect, you know. And then you're gonna go like that. See, I just got this kind of like this little shape right here. And then what I do is I'll take a little bit of Elmer's glue and slurp it on there, because slurping is good. We like slurpage. Again, remembering that this stuff is really thirsty, and so you just take it like this and just kind of glue it on there like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this to dry. Maybe if it sticks on there. There we go. I'm going to wait for that to dry, and then I'm going to paint it the same color basically that I have here. I have this lovely taupe color that I'm using that will pretty much match this, and it'll make it stand out a little better. It's kind of cool. So I'm going to put a bunch of little designs all over it, and that's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to cut them out of this stuff here and just glue them around. And the designs are really cool because they'll dry brush out and they'll wash a little bit better, so you'll see them as highlights, and it looks kind of like carvings and stuff. It's kind of a little thing you can do to make it a little cooler than you normally would be. So here you can see that I went ahead and took the toilet paper roll, and I went ahead and I cut out just random shapes and glued them on there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint them up, and I'm going to dry brush them so that it'll all look pretty cool when I'm done. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the gray, and I'm going to just randomly paint it on here. And as you can see, it blends in pretty well with what I've already got on there. So yeah, once this is all painted up, then I'm going to hit it with like a lighter dry brush, and you'll start to see some of the highlights pop out better. Now keep in mind that cardboard, again, is very thirsty, so it's not uncommon for you to have to go back and paint this 2 or 3 times just to get the right consistency of the color. Because as you can see, I can still see bits of the cardboard shining through, and you don't want that. You want to get rid of that as much as you can. Now again, we're going to dry brush over all this, and you're going to get rid of a lot of the detail, but it's good to be as thorough as possible beforehand. And again, to speed up this process more than you normally would, we're going to use a small tool that comes in very handy for this sort of thing. And even though I did that, I can probably still, I can still see like bits of cardboard through the paint job. So again, cardboard is very thirsty, and using a lot of paint is very much a given here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this paintbrush that I dunked in this black water, because I need to change it. I'm going to go change my water, and then I'm going to start a dry brush on this. And I'm going to show you how I do that just by using a wet palette right here on my dry brushing. This is a piece of paper towel that has been used for dry brushing so many times that it's actually just a hard chunk of paint now, and I love it. I use it like all the time. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we've got this painted so that you can't really see the little marks that were made on there. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take these two colors right here, and I'm going to wet blend them on this right here as I go. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this lovely brush right here, and I'm going to scoop out a big thing of white paint, just like that. And I'm going to smash it down on here like this, and really work it into the bristles. And then I'm going to take a big splorch of the gray, like that, and I'm going to work that into the white paint right here onto my palette, like this. And it's going to give me a color that is sort of a light gray, and that's exactly what I want. Then I just sit here and I use a separate tissue when I first do this, because there's a lot of paint on there and I don't want all that paint. I just want it to be a dry brush like this, nice and schmooshy. There we go. And then what I do is I come through here and I just lightly dry brush it like that. One of the things that you do have to be careful with on brushes that are this big and when you're using this much paint is that sometimes it'll be wet and you won't see it and you think you got it all, or you hit it the wrong way. So like, see, there's a lot of paint right there on my paintbrush. So what you really want to do every now and then is just, because then it does that and it kind of screws everything up. So I'm going to have to fix that. So you got to come through and wipe it off on your brush, off of your brush onto your thing. So you got to wipe it off. And then you come back to here and start over again. Gonna really work that into the bristles. And go back and fix the area that we just messed up. So now we've got a little light gray going on in there, and you can't really see it very well, which is totally fine, I don't even care. And then we're gonna take that same light gray color that we did before, and we're gonna do the top, because that'll help out, like this. That'll make it look like the top has been bleached and stuff over the years. And like that. And you can even go through and get a little bit of the darker color gray and just kind of stipple it on there. That's what I do. It doesn't really show up too much, which is good. And we come in here and like that. And then that looks pretty good. So ultimately it looks kind of like this. Now what I'm going to do is wait for this to dry, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to add a little bit of a wash to it. But I'm going to be really, really careful with this wash. It's going to be just around the edges of the little the pieces that I cut, the little contours there. I don't want too much of that. Then I'm going to go back and dry brush it again, as you do, and then I'm going to go back and hit it with just a small dusting of white to kind of bring out just the edges and on the things that I want. I'm going to take Agrax Earthshade, and I'm going to take just little bits of that, and I'm going to go ahead and throw that onto the edges of the little colors that are the shapes that I made. So I'm not going to use too much of this. We're going to be as careful as we can here, and I'm going to throw that onto there just as a means of kind of bringing out the details. So kind of like this, and just kind of drag it as much as you can. So just so that it's just like on the recesses here of the parts that you put on there. You don't want to go crazy on the Cheese Whiz with this. And then again, like I said, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to dry brush over the top of this, and then I'm going to dust it. And here you can see I have put the Agrax Earthshade on, and normally now I'm holding it upright because I want it all to kind of drain down and then pool around the edges of the outside. So it kind of looks like, over the course of a long time, the water and the spongy stuff is kind of built up on on the rim on the bottom here, and it'll eventually, you know, kind of drip down onto the base and stuff like that. I don't need it to be too intense, especially around the bottom half, because we're gonna highlight that even brighter. But yeah, so we wanted it to be like that, so it's gonna be lighter on the top and then darker on the bottom. And then when you highlight it, it'll look like it's just old and worn. And so now we dry brush. As you can see, there's a lot of cool detail and stuff left over from the hot glue, and I'm going to use a lot of that as well, because I can. Woohoo! Notice that I'm not actually putting any more white into it now. I'm just driving the darker color. And the reason for that is because I'm trying to kind of build like a light gradient from the top to the bottom. It's a little lighter on top where it's been sitting up in the weather and getting worn, and it's a little darker on the bottom where it hasn't been so beat up over time. Protected kind of by the earth, as it were. The rocks and dirt and crap that's all over it. Now I'm going to take some white, just pure white, and I'm going to run it over some dry toilet paper and just wipe off as much of it as I can here. And just kind of get a little bit of a dusting here so that I can go back through here and I can just roll a little bit of a dusting on here, so that the white will just kind of pick up the edges and the highlights just in a few places. I don't want to do this all over the place. But it starts to show like an aged look to the top. And sometimes a little bit here on the bottom as well. Again, with just a very, very light dusting here. And as you can see, it's starting to pick up the highlights from the carving bits quite nicely. And of course, you're going to want to do it across the top like this, just to get a little bit of a nice white dusting on the edges, so you get a nice white highlight. And we'll hit it along the back side as well. I'm going to paint the rocks a little bit different though, so we're gonna keep the white going here, a little white theme. Now for the rocks, you can just leave it like this. In fact, it looks fantastic the way it is. But if you want to do the rocks a little bit differently, what I like to do is, now that I've got the darker part on the sandy bits, I'll come back to here and I'll grab a hold of this lovely little taupe color. And sometimes I layer it, like I have two different versions. This is a little bit darker, this is a little bit lighter, but since it's already got that black wash that we put on it in the beginning, I'm going to go ahead and just use this part here to dry brush, and it'll look pretty cool. And I kind of worked that a little bit into the gray on my palette. I'm not overly worried about the colors overlapping here, because it kind of creates a nice little blend. So I'm going to basically dry brush along the, let's put it on the camera. I'm going to dry brush here along this, so that it brings out just the tops of the sand, as it were. Like so. And in this particular case, a little bit goes a really long way. You don't need to do too much in the way of highlighting this, because the sand is already pretty well highlighted. and I like how it kind of fades out to the black. So we're going to go ahead and continue with that. But what I'm going to do here is just grab a little bit of this lovely taupe, Sandy the Sand color, and we'll start at the top and just kind of work my way down, so that by the time I get to the bottom I'm pretty much out of paint on the brush, and it gives it kind of a cool little effect. There you go. And it doesn't matter if you spill a little bit of the dry brush over onto the stone, because it kind of makes it look, it's a nice dusting. There we go. So yeah, again, we'll come here and do a little dry brushing down and let it get all down to the bottom here. And then of course the dry brushing here of the sand on the top. Like this. We kind of blow that dry brushing out a little bit on the sides here to show that it's kind of picked up on the other side, like that. And this is kind of where we're going to leave it here. Now, if you want to go even further with this, you can take little patches of grass works, and you can put, weave different colors into this. You can put something on the top over here. You can do all kinds of stuff with this, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it like this for now. That's pretty much it. So you would have this on the battlefield, just kind of plop it into place, and you'd have this really cool little pillar just sitting there to cover, for cover or whatever else you want to do. And again, the whole thing took what, just not very long, and it took this is the same dollar store bag that I got for all the other stuff that I've done, a piece of cardboard, and some toilet paper rolls, and some Elmer's glue and hot glue. I mean, all together, this whole thing probably cost me, I don't know, 56 cents. And sure, it's not the greatest looking piece of terrain in the world, but you know what? For 50 cents, it's not bad. And so little pieces of terrain like this on the table are kind of neat. Now, if you want to take this even further and blow it up and make it look really cool, you can take a piece of twine and pull that apart, and then paint it all green, and then glue it all on here like vines, and then you can, add little tufts of grass and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into all of that, but because once you've got the model like this, it's not very hard to go from here. And this is just one of the different types of models that you can make. So anyway, and that's all there is to it. So this is what it looks like, and thanks for watching. Join us next time on Homebrew Terrain.